Welcome to the channel and the first video in a series where we are going to be taking a look at the 0.8.84 update, which was released into the beta test branch on the 12th of September 2022. In fact, we are actually on the 0.8.85 update because there's already been a fix for some of the reported bugs. And I think this is going to be very much a feature of the testing process. Now, what I'm going to be doing is creating a series of short videos highlighting certain features to do with the update. In this video, what I want to do is show 3 tools which have been added to the terrain editor. This is the editor that you use when you're creating a custom map. And this is the water erosion tool, the borders tool, and the make city tool. Now, before we get into this, I just want to mention 3 very key points. That is, the first one is that if you make a map using these tools, the game will register this as the 0.8.84 update. Now, so if you make a map and publish it to Steam, make sure you add a note to the description telling people that it is on the new update. Otherwise, they're going to have problems and then you're going to get grief with people saying your map doesn't work. So that's one thing you need to be aware of. The second one is that these tools are a little bit tetchy and also quite powerful. But before you do any major changes, make sure you take a save. And I can speak from experience that if you don't, there's nothing more annoying than, especially when you're changing the whole terrain, to change the whole terrain and then find out that you don't like it and then you've got no backup. So when you're working with these tools, save and save regularly. And the final one is the fact that the first tool we're going to be looking at, which is the water erosion tool, I've actually come to the game a little bit late because I've already been doing a lot of work on this map. And this water erosion tool is something you would do before you even put the trees and features. You're just building the main structure. What I've done is, well, I'll just give a bit of a background to the map. Now, this is a map that I've been working on since April. My original plan was to create an early start map that I would use when the game dropped into full release, which was originally intended for the end of this year. Well, I think we're all going to have to accept that that is not realistic. So what I've decided to do is change this map for a cosmonaut start. I'm not going to publish this until the new update drops into the stable branch. For 2 reasons. One, I still feel that I've got quite a lot of work to do on it. I'm still not completely happy with it. Plus, I need to make some changes that will fit the cosmonaut actual start. And the second one is that I just want to make sure that if there's any updates and changes, that the map still remains relevant. Now, the big problems I got with the map and what I want to fix with the water erosion tool, which I've been waiting for, is you can see that the mountains are a little bit spiky. The reason for that is that when I imported the map, the color gradient between black and white was quite dramatic, and I've been slowly softening some of the mountains over time, but I've deliberately left some of them a bit spiky so that we could try out the water erosion tool. Now, another problem area I'm not completely happy, and I'm hoping the water erosion tool will fix, is this canyon through the mountains to the edge. You can see it's a bit vertical, but it's quite difficult with the current tools to try and get a smooth slope up without the lake closing up completely. And the other thing I've got is I've got a couple of areas over here, and what I've done up here is I've created a NATO border crossing and a Soviet border crossing close together. The reason I did this was to provide an opportunity to play a game where you're actually trading with both very quickly. Also interesting, this is the only place that's got a power supply in at the moment, and it's actually a NATO power supply. I'm digressing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the stone texturing from this. If I press F2, you'll see it's quite a start point here. And there's also another one on this side as well, which I want to do. The little stripes down the side of the mountains were some roads that I was trying to put in for a reason which I'm not going to explain, but so we've now got this area here. I think to apply the tool, we're just going to get back to the canyon because this is the one that really interests me to see what will happen. Now the tool comes in two flavors, and you can see when you click on the tool, the map goes to a kind of topographic view. Oh, one thing I've forgotten to do is I've got to get rid of the trees, because what will happen is the mountains will be smoothed down, and see, like up here, you've got little patches of trees right on the top of the mountains, and that will actually cause a problem. So I'm just going to do that. I've also got a couple of roads. I'm hoping that the roads themselves won't get affected. In fact, if I kind of get in this angle here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the global water erosion tool first. And now I have done a bit of experimentation with this, guys. And one thing I will say is be very careful with the settings, because this is a very powerful tool, and I want to emphasize is save it before you do it. Now there's kind of a range of tools. You've got the strength, which I'm just going to increase a little bit. You've got the rain scale. Then this seems to define the level of erosion. I'm just going to push that up a little bit as well, because I want a fairly strong erosion. And then what you've got is a whole series of tools below here which relate to erosion angle effects, which if you want to play with, feel free. And then what you've got is a more of a general smoothing tool down the bottom here, which smooths across the whole landscape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce the smoothing a little bit. Now to use the tool, you just literally whack it onto the map like that, and then the whole map just changes like that. And if we come out the tool, what you'll see now is on the surface here you get a little bit more texture, and you can see it's starting to affect the edge of the cliff here. More importantly, it's brought this area out here, and you can see now that these mountains have got a more natural slope coming down into the lake. Although I'm going to have to I'll test play this canyon to make sure that the water can get through. What you got here is this side hasn't been affected particularly that well. If I kind of show you across the map now, what you will see is a lot of the spikes now. If I come to here, this was a particularly spiky area over here. You can see that the mountains have been a bit more rounded, and we've got, maybe I've done this a little bit too powerfully. I don't know. There's also a fairly spiky area down in this area. I don't know. I think it might grow on me. I mean, it's created some conical mountains here. One thing I did find out is that it doesn't affect flat areas very much. It can affect the edges of water here. So if you want a general smooth of your water flowing, your level between the water and the land along rivers and such, that is something that will work. The other thing I just want to take a quick look at. Now, if any of you are interested in the map, what I've created here, would be better here, is an oxbow lake, because I've got the river running through here. In fact, let's just see what it's done to this area here. I've created a cataract here to block the river. But what I've done is I've created two kind of depressions here, like to give the impression that this is the dried riverbed. And it's sufficiently low enough to be able to cut a canal through here. So I know I'm kind of promoting my own map, but I apologize for that. So the idea is that if you want to get to the oil over here, which is the big patch of oil, you can cut through a canal here, which will allow the ships to move the oil around the map. That's the idea anyway. I think what we'll do now is just to demonstrate, and I think what I'd like to do now, because of course what you've got is the individual tool, and what you can do is you can increase the strength a little bit, and we'll just work a little bit. In fact, I'll probably reduce the strength a little bit. But what you can do is just work through like this, and you can actually add kind of features. I mean, we could one thing you will notice is that you get the long slopes here, so there's also a little bit of an issue there. So I might have to, but if you get a gentle slope, like, and if you say, for example, you want to apply it to here on flat terrain, it kind of Let's just strengthen it a little bit. You can see where the terrain's actually flat, it doesn't have that much of an impact, but you can literally work across the map like that. Now, on respect to what I said about doing that before you do anything else, what you'll find is here, like I've actually messed up my lake here. And if you watch the video I made on putting these high level kind of lakes in, you can see that they've been kind of messed up a bit, but you can fix them to just do it smooth and center. Oops. So you can fix the lakes. Oops. Actually push that back a little bit too far. That's not the purpose of this video. That's something for me to spend a couple of hours sorting out all the little mistakes. Now, the next tool I'm going to show you is the borders tool. One thing I will say about this borders tool is that to see what you're doing, I recommend you actually have the mini map as wide as possible. Also, I'll start with a potential problem area. Now, the way the tool goes is you've got a new border point draw mode, and you've got new border point on selected part of the border, and you've also got move border point. Then you've got, it says make default with your back out should you mess it up. Now, be careful with it says clear points, because what clear points effectively does, in fact I'll just do it, is it removes the whole lot. It doesn't remove the point that you may get into, which I'm not sure if that's intended, but what you get is that, but you can get the default back. So if you make a mistake, you can replace the border back to the default lineup. Now, what you've got here is this is where you can actually change the border. But what I would say is if I click here and it says move border point, what I've found is that when the border point is over water, you can't pick it up. Where another thing you want to be careful of is don't scroll across the map with the tool active. You can end up putting a point down in a place where it may not done. But on land, you can actually drag the point. Now, this border, I do want to drag down a little bit because I want a little bit more of the lake down here. So, and I also want to take it out. So what you can do is you just drag the point out like this. Now, I don't want the map too big, and I'm aware that the customs offices are in the wrong places, but if you put a border post too close in, say, for example, up here, and you put a border post in that's a little bit too close to this, between two borders, the game can get a little bit confused. You're going to have to kind of try and do what I want to do. I mean, you don't actually have to have it square. Now, there are no curves. I'll say that much. So we got that there. And the other thing I want to do, in fact, I'm going to go back to this corner. Because you see, I've got a bit of a lake I built up here. And what I want to do is just drag this out. Sometimes a quick way to move this is actually just to use the scroll, especially if you want to keep the edge relatively straight. I don't think I just want to go out that far. And then what we're going to do is go up to the top point here. And I just want to pull this out. And of course, one thing you need to remember is that you are increasing the map area. That's how you can drag up the entire area. But one thing you can do, because remember that we can't really move that point at the top. But what you can do, this is where things can get a little bit tricky, is if you come to here and you put a point there. Now what you'll see is that the map actually joins to the next nearest point. And what you need to do is make up your mind which way you're going to go. What I want is to get past the lake. Now what you see there is I've got an angle, and I'm quite happy with that, because what I really wanted to do, and this is something you need to escape out before you do it. what I wanted to do is have some water edge up here, and I'm quite happy with that point there, but I'm not totally happy with that corner there. And of course, once you've got that point, and this is a safer way to make fine adjustments, is escape out and then actually do something like that. Maybe we'll just push over a little bit further. I mean, it doesn't have to be square. And again, if I draw the map out really big, it makes it a little bit easier to see, especially if you really want it to keep the spirit of the map going. Now, the reason I've done that is that I wanted to open up this area here for, if I show you, I think I've got a little patch of iron down here, and it was squeezed up in this corner because the map itself. So what I'm going to do is move that iron over, and also I wanted to open up that edge there. Now, the next bit is going to be very much an example of what you can do, and I think the draw mode is now. Got to be a bit careful now. Yeah, this is a bit of a dodgy tool because it hooks 2 points, and to be honest, I don't really like it. It's a bit of a dangerous tool if you want to experiment. What it does is you click on here and it kind of hooks to border posts and places and then drags it through. But what I want to show you just here is we've got a little bit of a point here, so we're going to do a bit of position work now. And what we're going to do is just put in a post there, and we're going to just go up. I want to leave enough space so that I can put the customs post back in again, and then you can see I've actually done that. But what you can do is come back again like that. You can create a little bit of a jag area there, but something else you can do is if you come to here, what you can do is actually change the border like that. So if for some reason in your map design you want a border crossing going into there, so say for example I wanted that to be a border post up here. I don't want it to be a border post, but this is just an example of what you can do. But what you can do is just change it back again. This is where this can catch you out, because you've got to move border post here, and you can't seem to remove the individual points. You've just got to drag them back to a certain position to say straighten the map up a little bit. So I'm just going to make this into a slightly less dramatic change. So say for example we'll put that there, and okay, I'm just going to leave this in, and maybe we'll make it look a little bit more, maybe put it up in the mountains there. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it, because I've demonstrated most of the tools. Whether this will be the outline of the finished map, most likely I've done what I wanted to do. I've uncovered the areas that I've exposed. I've created a little bit of a wider area here, and of course, yeah, I've added extra scale to the map itself. So what we're going to do now is just move on to the final tool, come into this area here. Now, this tool is also available in the normal game, and what it does is it allows you to make a city. One thing I'll point out again is drop a save before you do this. In fact, no, I think I'm going to be okay. Yeah, no, I can delete the stuff, because if you drop, the reason you want to drop a save, especially if you're doing a big city, is that you're going to have the tedium of removing all the buildings. And what you've got here is you've got an area that says make city, which is what you actually click. Then you can place random buildings, and you can place from a selection. In this mode, what it says is, this is bake buildings, select buildings. Well, what you can do is just select the buildings from this area here, And what you can do is you've got two options. So for this example, you can select all of them like that, or what you can do is you can add individual buildings as well. Now, so what this means is we'll put some flats in as well. I'm not sure. Maybe that's a bit modern, so we'll just remove you. I want an old theme here. We could probably put a couple of. They've got a couple of village houses. Now, the one thing I will say is that don't select customs house unless you want to build a customs house on the building. The other thing is also don't select cathedrals. Because what will happen is if you select a cathedral, it won't put one. You end up with a city with about 4 or 5 cathedrals. And then what you do is you come in here. And now the road distance is how far you want away from the buildings. Now what I will say is this builds from roads. So before you activate this tool, make sure you do a little road layout like I've done now. And all you've got to do then is just click like that. It kind of clunks away a little bit. Takes a little while for the game to do it. And then suddenly, hey presto, you get a whole laid out town. I let the game run. And what you see is we've got an instant town. As I say, if you selected cathedrals, you'd have 4 or 5 cathedrals. Also applies to the ordinary game as well. So it's a useful tool for the terrain editor. But if you want to build a city or a layout very, very quickly, in fact, I might demonstrate it in my 7 Crosses series. Lay out the road system and then just select the buildings that you want on the map. But be aware that you may need to plan your utilities first, because of course this just lays out the roads. But the other thing you can do is place these in as well. Now this is one of the nice options that you can get when you are working in the normal map and planning cities, is the fact that you can have a list of preferred buildings. So in some ways it's equivalent to mods. And what you can do is instead, so that means is, say you want to put in I don't know why that's in there, but never mind. Medium customs house, okay. And so say for example you want an old city house, you can actually put buildings in like this. So you can actually add the buildings, and of course this would be the time when you could add the cathedrals to the list as well. You can place buildings on the map. As I said, this can become quite effective when you are building cities on the main map. But of course, if you want to build a populated map on the when you're creating a terrain editor, it saves a lot of work, and you do get a fairly realistic looking town to start with. And actually, I think I'll leave that in actually. Now this map's not going to be populated, but maybe for the fun of it I'll just leave the towns in. Now if you're wondering why there was a cathedral here in the first place, the reason I put cathedrals in is that one of the things I want to take a look at when this map's published and I'm playing on it is whether people will use public transport to get to church. And I think that is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it interesting. Any questions, feel free to ask. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.